every penny I spend on my CPA, I get back a lot more. So it's an investment essentially, and I get a really good return on that investment.
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, our sponsor for the show today is Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, and they were recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through their investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. Look, there's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me is Matt Jones. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How about yourself, Todd?
I'm doing swell. Thanks for asking. So end of the year, right? We have to do this thing that we all probably don't like, or maybe a select few of us like it, but we have to get our taxes, our financials in order, which is always a good practice to make sure your financials in order. But then we got to do our taxes and we get to pay Uncle Sam. I don't know about you, but that's not my favorite thing to do. It costs me a pretty good chunk of money because I've got a lot of different properties and businesses and all that kind of stuff. And every single business you have, it costs you money to file taxes. I use a CPA. And so, they prepare my taxes and they don't do it for free, unfortunately. So I end up paying my CPA, 5 figures a year, a healthy 5 figures every year. And, but that's important as well. And so I want to talk about the importance of a CPA and some of the things right now that as a real estate investor, you should be kind of making sure that you're doing. So let's dig into that. But before we get started, Matt, any lessons learned, anything in 2020 that you maybe done or planning on doing that's exciting that you want to talk about?
Well, a couple things going on. I'm really excited to publish my book later this year, and also excited about the North Star Real Estate Conference that we're planning.
Awesome.
Great networking opportunities, great educational opportunities.
Yeah, definitely excited about that. We've been doing a lot of planning. We're getting a lot of speakers lined up and kind of our agenda set. And so it's like, okay, it's coming quickly. It's April 24th and 25th, and it seems like, that should be a long ways away, but that's actually not too far away. So we've got some planning to do, but things are getting into place, and excited to do the conference again. It was a ton of fun last year. I think everybody got an amazing amount of value. So looking forward to that again. For me, I'm really focused right now on reconnecting with brokers. Now is a great time to reconnect with the real estate brokers, with property owners, because kind of towards the end of the year, nobody really wants to sell. Now that the new year's began, they're starting to think about, okay, what am I going to do? A lot of people have made their goals or said, hey, in 2020, I'm going to sell this property or think about selling or refinancing. So now's the time to be in contact with brokers, with property owners, with property managers, and try to be getting deals done and finding deals that work. So yeah, now is a great time to be really focusing on that. So that's a big focus of mine. I also have a property here that I'm looking at doing an office complex. So I'm hoping that kind of comes to fruition. That's a very exciting project. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's still a ways from happening, but definitely a project that I'm excited about. That's it for me. So let's get to kind of today's topic, which is taxes. Matt, what type of what type of things do we need to be doing as the landlords for the tax season?
Well, you need everything in order. So with my CPA, he has a sort of organizational method. So I make sure all of my expenses are categorized into this pre-established system. And, I also have to think about my tenants to get the Minnesota certificate of rent paid out to them since we're in Minnesota. So I've already done that. Yeah, it's just mainly just keeping organized and keeping everything together. So I can come to my CPA with a nice, stack of things and say, all right, let's make the magic happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So CRPs are definitely, if you're a landlord, especially if you're managing your properties yourself, that's really important. If you're not managing your properties yourself, you still want to make sure your property managers are getting out the proper forms that are needed to get to tenants. So CRP is certificate of rent paid that allows the tenants to, basically you're saying this is what the tenants paid this year, and so they can submit that with their taxes. You also might have a 1099 or several 1099s. If you have had subcontractors at your properties, you might have to submit 1099s to those subcontractors. And then the last thing is, if you've got investors like I do, or partners, joint partners, you are going to have to submit a K-1, which shows the amount of income that they received in 2019. That's important. That's due March 15th. The CRPs and 1099s are due the end of January. So you got to get on that stuff. And it's nice to not wait till the last minute as well, because some people like to get their taxes done early. And so if these K1s aren't in until, March 15th, that might irritate some of your investors. And obviously you've got to do what you can do to get them done. There's a lot of, I do a lot of K1s. I got to send out a lot of K1s, but we don't want to delay anybody's taxes if at all possible. So a lot to think about. Make sure your CPA is aware of it. So now, if you haven't done so already, now's a great time to set up a meeting with your CPA to make sure that everybody's on the same page. They're getting very busy. And so if you can't get on their calendar now, it's going to be tough to get on their calendar in, March and April, because that's when they're completely slammed, and they might not want to meet with you until June or July because they're going to take a month or two off after tax season. So Matt, you said you use a CPA. I use a CPA. Why do you use a CPA?
Their expertise, they're going to get me a much larger refund than if I try to attempt to do my own taxes. I'm beyond that point. When I was a teenager and just had a job, then it was pretty easy because it was pretty straightforward for me to do my own taxes. But just the complexities of property management and investing is just beyond what I can do. So they, every penny I spend on my CPA, I get back a lot more. So it's an investment essentially. And I get a really good return on that investment.
Yeah, and not only is it an investment where financially you probably do just fine, but it's also a security reason, right? And we know that we have the potential of being audited, and if we get audited and we did our own taxes and we did them wrong, well, then the buck stops here, right? You're completely at risk there. Now, if you hired a CPA, hopefully they do it right? You've got a professional looking at your taxes, doing it, putting it together. Hopefully they've done it right. But if they didn't, they're going to come to your defense. They're going to help you out. Now, of course, if it's something you fraudulated, that's different. But if you've provided them the information and somehow they made a mistake, they're going to, or at least a reputable CPA is going to take care of that for you. Going to be a part of that whole process. So that's the last thing we want, obviously, is to get audited, but it happens. I got audited years ago, actually before even my real estate days, and that was kind of an interesting lesson learned. I got audited actually, and the government said I owe, whatever it was, $2,000, and I went through everything, and I found out that I don't I don't owe $2,000, that the government actually owes me money because I made an error in the taxes in my statement, and the government actually owed me like $500. So I send them a letter back with the proof showing that they actually owe me $500, and they sent a letter back saying we do not pay for your mistakes, basically. Something like that. I can't remember exactly the wording, but it was basically you messed up, we don't pay you back. Now I think I could have filed, and I did an amendment or something. There was a certain process that I could go through, but either way, it was just kind of funny. It's like, oh, they want your money, but they're not looking after you. Like if you overpaid, they don't care, but if you underpay, that they care. So. Yep. Our tax system is so complex, and this is kind of almost a political talk. I mean, our tax system is so complex that you should not be, unless you just have a job, you should not be handling it yourself. And even if you just have a job, if you start having kids and, own your own house and, donate and, donate to charities and stuff like that, it becomes complex even with that. So, add in some businesses that you own, rental real estate, man, it just becomes so complex that our government has made it impossible for just anybody to do it. So you need to have somebody that's trained to really look at your taxes and make sure you're staying out of trouble and like you said, save you some money.
And, our listeners, be very picky about what CPA you choose. Don't just drive down the street, see somebody dancing in a Statue of Liberty costume and pull up there.
Why not?
You really want because
they're so nice. They got that Statue of Liberty with the sign that flips up. I mean, it's so nice, right?
That's a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, you want somebody who has the expertise, specifically in real estate investing, that is knowledgeable, maybe somebody who owns properties themselves even, so they really get it. When you're going to the Statue of Liberty place, those preparers aren't CPAs necessarily. They're, they just barely know how to fill out the form, perhaps.
Well, and they've got one thing you have to realize when you go to a big house like that, you're talking whatever. I guess I won't name drop, but everybody knows who we're talking about. You go to some of the big houses and they've got just temps. These people have a job for only a few months, and they're lucky if they get to stay on after that. Most of them don't. They're just employed for, from January through April. And then, April 15th rolls around and maybe they'll stick around for 2 weeks to do some, cleanup, but they're done with the job until next year. So that's who you've got doing your taxes. If you go to one of those, most likely.
Yeah. And they don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of investing and all of your write-offs that you can really capitalize off of, like a professional CPA would.
I would say there's almost zero possibility that they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in that position. Most, and I shouldn't say, like, I don't, there might be some people that are excellent at what they're doing. Maybe they know the ins and outs of all the real estate laws and all the business rules and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're just not going to get many that are going to be able to do the job of a CPA that is actually well-versed in real estate and in business. And that's what the important part is. We're not just looking for any CPA. We're looking for an expert in our niche, right? You wouldn't go to your family doctor and have him do surgery on your heart, right? You wouldn't. You'd go to a heart surgeon. So why would you go to just any CPA to have them do your taxes? Obviously, it's not, life or death, but it could be jail or no jail. Mm-hmm. Hey, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor, Pine Financial Group. Look, you work hard for your money. Is your money working hard for you? Because of inflation, money sitting idle erodes your wealth. Many investors understand that real estate is a great investment, but may not want the effort or the risk that comes with owning their own property. They want to sit back and have payments, hit their bank account each and every month. Stop eroding your wealth and start building it by asking your money to work for you. You should be earning profits while you sleep, an investment backed by real estate. Pine Financial Group, the leader in hard money lending in Colorado and Minnesota, was recently approved to offer their investment publicly. This investment offer is only for investors in Colorado and Minnesota and is only made through the investment prospectus. Get your copy today. Simply visit www.pineinvestments.com and click to get started. There's a reason why some of the wealthiest people in history invest in loans backed by real estate. Learn more about the risks and returns at www.pineinvestments.com. It's www.pineinvestments.com.
And the tax law, like you said, is just so complex. No one person can be an expert in it all. You want somebody with that specific niche in your area.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the other really important thing is you want somebody that's going to be a partner with you, a strategist, right? You want somebody that's not just going to be there for tax time. And this is partly your job too, quite frankly. I mean, you can ignore your accountant and you know, not set up meetings with them. But if you want to really save money in taxes and do it the right way, set yourself up for success in that aspect, well, there's a lot of strategies that the CPA can work out with you. So meeting throughout the year, email, dialogue and phone calls, and getting really a plan in place is going to help save you a lot of money and make you a lot of money. I mean, we want to know, what kind of benefits we can get with depreciation. Should we be accelerating the depreciation? Does that make sense? Does it, how are we going to capture these long-term capital gains versus short-term? What is if I do sell a property and I don't 1031 exchange it, what are we looking at as far as our tax implications? Does it even make sense to sell, after we pay back depreciation and, pay back our capital gains? Like, what's the profit at the end of the day? Did it really make sense to sell, or should we have refinanced, or should we have 1031 exchanged that property? So your CPA can work through you with all those different types of things. And those are so important to make sure you have somebody on your team that understands all of that.
Yep. And they really are a critical part of a team to help you succeed in investing.
And business structuring too. I mean, you want to make sure, like, if you set up a partnership and maybe the partner that you have brings more money to the table than you, but you split the profits a different kind of percentage. Maybe you get a little bit more of the profits than they do because of some of the work you're doing. Well, there's tax implications for doing that if you don't set it up, especially if you don't set it up right. I mean, you could really get hammered with taxes. So are you setting that up the right way? I mean, when I did my first partnership like that, the way we were originally planning on doing it, I would have been just blasted with taxes. I was going to have to pay, I think it was like $30,000 or $40,000 worth of taxes just because of the way we were setting up. We set it up a different way, then it had to get creative, but how we set it up, I ended up paying zero taxes. So I saved, that in itself, I saved $30,000 to $40,000 because of my CPA. They'll work with your accountant, with your attorney as well.
Mm-hmm. So what advice do you give to our listeners for finding that right CPA beyond just Googling CPA near me?
Yeah. I think it comes down to conversations and networking. I mean, finding other investors, right now there's so many groups out there. You've got Bigger Pockets, you've got Facebook groups, you've got LinkedIn groups, you've got all these social media groups, you've got different meetups, all that kind of stuff. So I would say it's all about networking, getting out there, asking questions, getting referrals. And then don't just settle for the first one that you talk to. Make sure you talk to 5, 6, 7 different accountants. Make sure that you're getting with the right CPA. Well, we've had several really excellent CPAs on this podcast. So getting with the right CPA is so important. Making sure you understand who they are and what their area of expertise is, and that it matches with yours, and that they're going to be a true team player. They're going to be a part of your group. That they're going to actually add the value you need them to
add. And so when you're preparing your taxes, getting ready to meet with your CPA, what sort of things do you need to have? Do you need to be in control
of? I don't know if I'm understanding your question right. What sort of things do you need to be in control of?
Yeah. Do you organize anything, or do you just bring a shoebox full of receipts?
Yeah, a shoebox full of receipts is a great way to get a really expensive tax bill. So yeah, obviously the more organized you are, what kind of questions I would be asking them if this is a new CPA that you're working with is, what software programs do you work with? Maybe they work with QuickBooks. Okay, well then you probably want everything into QuickBooks. Maybe they do work with, some of the property management software that you have. Well then, okay, great. We can just import all that stuff or send that to them. So you want to make sure you're giving them files like they want. When I first was in this business and I was doing the stuff myself, I was good in Excel, but I had no clue how to do QuickBooks and I didn't want to take the time to learn it. So I was sending my CPA everything in Excel. That was costing me a little bit more money because they would have to take it from Excel and decipher it that way. And that's not the way they were doing it, in their office. So once we switched over to QuickBooks, that actually did save us a little bit of money in our tax preparation. So making sure everything's organized is really important. Labeled properly is really important. You want to, you've got capital improvements that you do to your property. You want to make sure those are separated out from just the regular maintenance and repairs, that type of stuff. Just organization is so important. And then I think beyond just the individual tax season, having a plan, a business plan, and really sharing with your CPA your vision, your overall vision of what you're trying to achieve, helps them understand, okay, so how do we need to prepare for this, and what are the types of things we can do, strategy, setting up your business entities, all that kind of stuff, and really helps them get a grip on all of that. Okay, we know you're going to be selling this property in 5 years. Okay, what are the things we need to do right now to make sure you're saving the most amount on taxes? We don't want to over depreciate if it's just going to cause us a headache in the end, especially if you're not going to sell in 1031 exchange. So, what does that look like?
And what advice do you give to people on how to handle if they do get audited by the IRS?
I mean, look, if you have a good CPA and you've got things well documented, you should be just fine as long as you're doing things the right way. So I guess keep good, clean receipts and documents, and hire a good CPA.
All right. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's good about, having the right CPA, having a CPA that's involved in real estate and business, is that that's a good referral system there. It's a good networking group, with your accountant, with those professionals, because they have connections that you probably want to meet. So
good advice.
Yeah, well, that's really all I got. Just make sure you have a good real estate CPA on your team, and set yourself up for success from the start.
Very good. And if you don't have one yet, get one soon.
Yeah, well, get one yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no time like the present, right? So awesome, Matt. Well, that's all I got. Unless you got anything else, you have a fantastic rest of the day, and make every day a Saturday. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Couple things before we go. Again, go on to our Facebook page, Pillars of Wealth. We'd love to have you on there. Go on to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and subscribe to the show. Also, don't forget, reach out to me if you want any help with potentially growing your business, and reach out to John Stiles to help you buy or sell real estate. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Have a fantastic the rest of the day. And as I say, make every day a Saturday.